Today I'm going to talk about and rank every single Resident Evil feature film. So that is all 6 Milla Jovovich live action ones, all 4 CG animated ones that are in continuity of the games, and also the newest live action that's just a remake of the first 2 games. But I'm not going to be talking about these from like a video game perspective, because I have played a number of the games, but I don't feel that I'm enough of an expert about the games to really compare and contrast. This is more of like evaluating their cinematic value. And they are organized by first the 6 Milla Jovovich movies, then the 4 animated ones, and then the last live action one. And then I will tell you my rankings of all of them at the very end. But first up is Resident Evil. This is a 2002 film written and directed by Paul W.S. Anderson and starring Milla Jovovich. And the basic premise is not the premise of the video game, but basically one day this woman wakes up in the shower, has no memory, but then gets whisked away into a mystery about a bunch of zombies. And it's really, really good. They nailed so many things. The aesthetic is great, that's for sure. Milla does a great job of carrying the film. The supporting characters are also really, really interesting. I loved Michelle Rodriguez in this. She was great. Thomas Jane's also in this, and he was solid. They did a wonderful job with the mystery of the horror of it. It's clear they also like kind of had a smaller budget, but I think they made very good use of it. Like, they didn't always show the most graphic part of the kill, but they were really good about still making it feel like you're seeing all the graphic stuff. So for instance, the kill that's in the elevator, I won't say what happens if you haven't seen it, but that's a scene where we don't see stuff happen, but they did a good job with the tension and the sound effects that I got the exact same squirm that I would have gotten had we actually seen the thing happen. So good job, movie. And like, there's so many really incredibly great kills. Like, there's the one hallway one that they recreate in other movies, but it's wonderfully done here. I don't know, I just like everything about it works really well. It's scary, it's interesting, the story works really well, the characters work really well. There are a couple dumb, silly things, but it's just so easy to look past it because everything else about it just clicks. It's just a really solid little horror film. I do not understand why it got ravaged by critics, but that's neither here nor there. So if you've never seen it before or it's been a while, definitely recommend it. It's a good, fun, scary, interesting experience. Next up is Resident Evil Apocalypse. This is a 2004 film. It is a direct sequel to the last one. Basically, zombies got out and things went to hell. Now, this was still produced and written by Paul W.S. Anderson, but he didn't direct it. I liked this film, but I have a lot of issues with it. It really felt like a notable step down. But I will start with a bunch of the positives. Alice, our lead character, was great again. I thought they expanded upon her in a really interesting way. I loved her new outfit. Her outfits are always great. Her kills are really, really good. Jill Valentine was a really fun introduction. I liked that whole dynamic with that whole group of people. The choice to kind of focus on those guys instead of Alice for a while was a really, really great one. This one's definitely more action heavy rather than story heavy, which isn't great, but the action is solid. It's very of its time, so lots of quick cuts, but I still think it's fun and interesting. And the creature effects are still really good. But like I said, I have a number of complaints. It's a really messy film. There's just a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of stuff that you can cut out to make it a much more tighter, coherent film. So the movie opens up on Alice recapping what happened in the last movie. We don't need that. And then it goes to the last scene of the last movie. We don't need to see that again. There's also a scene with Alice like getting some stuff from a gun store. We don't need that scene either. Really, what this film should have done is just start by focusing on Jill and the other tertiary characters and just have the story be about them in the immediate response to a zombie outbreak, which is essentially what they did, but a bit more focused. Get rid of Jill seeing about the apocalypse on the news because her outfit it, though directly from the video game, makes no sense in context of what she was doing. Because she saw in the news that the zombie apocalypse was happening, and so she prepared herself by putting on a tube top and a miniskirt, and then went to the police station to shoot up a bunch of zombies. No sense. Like, she's supposed to be a very smart character, and she is most of the time. But by not dressing appropriately, you remove a good chunk of her intelligence. If you want to keep her in her iconic video game costume, just do what they did in the video game, which is have the zombies attack her while she's in her apartment just chilling. It's brilliant. You can have her whatever sexy outfit you want to have in because she's just chilling at home. Perfect. Brilliant. Why didn't you do that? All you have to do to fix it as is, though, is just to cut out the scene of her in her apartment now. It's just kind of like, oh, she's just at the police station doing stuff. Cool, that just works well enough. But like I said, you're also removing all this other stuff with Alice. So the first time we see Alice is at the church when she comes flying in on a motorcycle, and it's way ridiculous. But that works really well because as new audience who didn't see the first one, they're like, who's this crazy bitch coming in here on a motorcycle? And for fans of the first one, they're like, yeah, Alice is finally here. Things are about to go crazy. It's great. I mean, you could add to it a little too by like, we don't see Alice, but we see the motorcycle stopping, and then we see like the hand revving, and then like the wheels spinning, and then like her hitting a ramp to also help explain how the hell she jumped into this church through a window. And then you could quickly throw in a line too of, why did you do this? And her being like, oh, I saw the tongue guys coming in. I thought some people needed saving or something like that. Because she doesn't explain why she did anything, which is just adds to the stupidness. As is, I liked it. It was fine, but if I'm being honest, you could totally skip this film. Having watched the first three, you don't really need anything from this. It doesn't really advance the overall story a ton. So yeah, I liked it. It was good, but I could leave it or take it. And lastly is Resident Evil Extinction. This is a 2007 film, and the basic premise is it has been 5 years since the zombie apocalypse, and things have gone very bad. The virus kind of also destroys nature and water, so the whole world's just in rough shape. So we got Alice out in the desert in a really cool outfit. Look at that outfit, so badass. Just kind of doing her thing as she's changing as a person, put it that way. And then we also have the story of Claire, who is a video game character, leading a group of survivors in a caravan. I think that's a really good idea, really interesting idea. I definitely think this movie is a step up from the last one. It definitely looks better. It looks like it has a better budget. The practical effects are really, really good. I did roll my eyes a bit at the intro scene, but it's fine. I understand what they were going for. I think the story was very interesting and they took it in a very logical way. The bad guys were interesting too, because like they were technically doing good things. They were just going about it in a very morally not good way. But when you're facing extinction, I can understand a bit. I really like Claire a lot in this, though she needed a bit more depth, just more story, because she's just like this tiny young woman who is somehow in charge of this caravan of people. Like all of these people entrusted this tiny little woman with their lives, and they don't tell us why. And like, we don't need her entire backstory and everything explained about her, but we need some things explained about her. Why do they trust her? Apparently the original story was for her to be searching for her brother, which is from the video games, but they cut it for some reason, and I'm like, oh, that would have gave her so much agency rather than just leader of this caravan. So yeah, my other complaint was that the crows, the murder of crows, did not look good. My brother Kyle's argument was that it probably looked good for the time of, but I disagree. I don't think that they looked good for the time of. They just really did not look good to me. And then those couple of things though. It's good story, good kills again. Isn't as scary as the first one, but like, still fun and interesting. Great kills, very bloody, loved that. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed this one and would totally recommend it. If you like the first one, for sure give this one a watch. Next up is Resident Evil Afterlife. This is a 2010 film, and the basic premise is it picks up essentially where the last movie left off. I'm gonna say a little spoilers, but it's fine. So it has Alice and her army of clones attacking the Umbrella facility in Japan. And I was just like, cool, this is exactly what I wanted. Because that was such a great end to 3, and this is gonna be such such a cool start here, and it's okay. I really didn't like her outfit. The action was really ridiculous, not always in a fun way. Once I realized that all of the clones died in this big action set piece, I got really annoyed because I was so excited to see Alice like interacting with all of her clones and seeing how all of her clones have like different personalities and stuff. But then like to perfectly end cap the beginning in the most like fuck you kind of way, they get rid of her superpowers. And like, I hated that she got superpowers. I thought that was really dumb and random. I guess it kind of makes sense in like the mutation sort of way. Okay, I hate it, but you're doing it. I'm excited to see how you explore this interesting idea of her having these super godlike abilities. And then they just get rid of them for no reason at all. They're like, oh, she was getting too crazy. We had to reset her back to 0. And I'm like, no, you had an idea. Just commit to it. Explore it. It's not that hard. It's interesting. You can make it interesting. Just do it. Okay, whatever, it's fine. She then decides to go to Alaska to meet up with everyone else who's up there. Well, she gets there, she doesn't really find anything because she doesn't really look at all. She does find Claire, which is great. I love Claire. It's always good to see Claire. But they're more or less safe up in Alaska. They're like, you know what? Let's go to a really dumb place to be. Los Angeles. Why? Why go to Los Angeles? There's no reason. There's no point. Why? Well, it's because they wanted to do a Prison Break movie, so they went to a prison in Los Angeles for reasons. Also, they got the guy from Prison Break to do the Prison Break movie. And my favorite really dumb fact about that too is that his first line in Prison Break, the TV show, and in this movie is the exact same. It's like, I know the way out. Literally only cast him because he's in the show Prison Break. I hate it and I love it. Also, just as a quick aside, it's been 4 or 5 years, I forget now, since the dawn of the zombie apocalypse, and all of the people they come across in this prison are still wearing their day 1 outfits. They would have wanted to change. They would have made clothes. They would have done anything than still just wearing the exact same, almost untethered clothes. What are you doing? Whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Also, the axe zombie, I get that it's something from the game, but like, you need an explanation for it. It didn't just come out of nowhere. Someone created it. It was way too meticulously put together. You gotta tell us what's up with this guy. You can't just have this thing exist. You need something. And then on top of that, I loved / hated how like, so he has like his giant axe and he's trying to like break down a fence, but like they're both props. So he's just like gently tinging it against it and putting 0 effort behind it. And I'm like, this is absurd. This is so bad. What are you doing? Okay, so I'm dummied on this movie a lot for good reason. There's a lot of things wrong with it, but I liked it, and it's like borderline quite liked. Like, I loved the return of Claire because it's always great to see Claire. I do think the action set pieces were pretty fun. I loved that Claire's brother was there. I do think there's a lot of interesting ideas and good kills. The location wasn't bad. Also, I really loved her hair in this one for reasons, though her outfit wasn't good. Okay, so leaving this movie, I felt pretty good about it, and I really debated for a long time whether or not it was a quite liked or just a liked. So either a 4 out of 5 or a 3 out of 5. But I had so much to complain about. I'm like, I can't put this in the quite liked. Like, I'm just digging on this movie so much. It's decent though. It's not bad, but like, it's got its issues. So recommendation, I'll come back to that in the outro. It's kind of a maybe. It's complicated. Next up is Resident Evil Retribution. This is a 2012 film. The basic premise is Alice is in this under ice / underwater umbrella facility, and she needs to fight her way out. Also, there's maybe clones of past co-stars that are now bad because they're clones, and maybe the whole reason is just because they wanted to bring Michelle Rodriguez back because she's a bigger star now. Okay, so this movie, I was getting really frustrated with this franchise by this point because they just loved to set up these cliffhanger endings where you have a good idea of where the next movie's gonna go, how the next movie's gonna start, what it's all gonna be about, and then they'll just completely abandon that idea by the time the next one rolls around. Like, it doesn't matter if who's standing next to Alice at the end of the movie. They're probably not gonna be in the next one, and it's not gonna be explained what happened to them or where they've been. Like, Suddenly Jill Valentine is back. She's a bad guy with no explanation. Yes, she has the thing on her chest, and so that's why she's bad. Also, her outfit is terrible. It's probably video game accurate, but I don't care. It's terrible. It's just to show off her boobs, and it doesn't look good. You can show off her boobs and make it look good. It just, whatever, it's fine. Anyway, so I think my frustration with this movie is kind of just a big frustration with the series in general, but it's just, there's just no logic to this movie. I also hate how every single time they do like a 6-minute recap of the entire franchise. You don't need it, because all these movies are incredibly standalone. You don't need to tell us that her name is Alice. She used to be security at the Umbrella Corporation, which is the largest company in the world. All this other bullshit. Like, just, you don't need it. You just don't need it. Either trust your audience to have seen the other movies, or just naturally include that information in regular dialogue. You don't need to monologue at us. But they also just don't like giving these characters character or really anything. Like, yeah, it was really great to see Michelle Rodriguez again because she's a good actor, but she doesn't really have a lot to do here. I thought she was gonna be a bigger part of this movie because she is second build, but like, man, she does almost nothing. I'm getting tired of just action set pieces for the sake of action set pieces. This is the most video game-like in the sense of it's just action and there's no plot. Like, they're literally just moving through different levels of a video game, and that's it. And I hate that they keep bringing back the laser hallway. Like, yes, that was a really cool moment in the first one. Make your own really cool moment in this one. It's not that hard. You did it once. Sorry. One more thing that just like pissed me off so much with this movie is that at the very end, they're like, so remember how we took away your superpowers? Well, we need you to have your superpowers back. So I'm gonna inject you again so that you get your superpowers back. And that's just, it angers me to no end. Just pick a lane. Don't go back and forth like this. This is dumb and terrible, and I hate you. I didn't super care for this movie. I still liked it. It's fine. It's interesting. This movie is probably better if it's like you watched it with a big gap in between the other ones. I think that's the intention. So yeah, it's fine. It's just like, I'm tired. These movies aren't bad. It's just, they're just difficult at times. And lastly is The Final Chapter. This is a 2016 film, and okay, so like the first 10 minutes of this movie, I was just reeling for how annoyed I was, because this is a bit spoilers. At the end of the fifth one, there's this really cool shot of all of our heroes on top of the White House. Why are they at the White House? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Whatever. They're just there. It's supposed to be cool. Sure, it's cool. And there's a horde of zombies coming at them. Neat. Okay. How does this movie open? This movie opens with Alice all alone in DC, and it's just a wasteland. There's no one else around, and there's zero explanation from how it went from everyone to just her. It just happened. Okay, so remember how I said that she got her superpowers back in the fifth one? She didn't. She didn't. It was a lie. Why? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. I'm so pissed off about that. Just like this, I have no words for how angry I am with the series just flip-flopping around. Can't decide what it wants to be, where it wants to go with any of the stories. It's just making it up as it goes along. Okay, that was my emotions while watching the beginning of the movie. And I'm like, okay, no, let's pause for a second here, take some breaths, calm down, because I'm like, okay, these action set pieces are good. This looks the best out of all of these movies. Like, the CGI is legitimately good. The sets are good. I really loved the tank cars that are in this. Those are really cool. I can feel myself kind of enjoying this, so I just need to like kind of relax, push away the frustration, and look at just this movie as it is. And after I was able to do that, I enjoyed this movie a lot. This movie is really interesting. They do some retcons by explaining how the zombie apocalypse happened, like the why. And I thought that was a really interesting idea. They actually gave more character to characters. There's some new twists. I liked the new Red Queen, played by Paul W. Anderson and Mila Jovovich's real-life daughter. I think she did a good job. Claire Claire's back again, so that's always a good time. I don't know, I think it just did a good job of wrapping things up and finally giving us interesting answers to things that we didn't necessarily need, but like, it made it feel like something happened, so that was good. It doesn't explain what happened to Jill, but her, I guess. So yeah, this one was actually pretty dang great, in my opinion. I'll get to the recommendation in a second, but the answer's gonna be yes, I definitely recommend this one. Next up is Resident Evil Degeneration. Also, I'm going to talk about Resident Evil Damnation. I'm going to do a twofer because what I have to say relates to both of them, which is I didn't particularly care for them. Now, they are in the continuity of the games, which I think is great. Claire showed up in Degeneration, which is always great. I love seeing Claire. The animation is fine. I have no real problems for that. It definitely improved in Damnation, and they did a decent job of kind of like explaining the world and universe with the opening montages, but then it got to be too much. They just did information overload. And then in Degeneration, it's more like there's just so many characters and we keep bouncing around from everyone, and I'm like, I don't really know what's going on. I don't really care about anyone because we're just flying back and forth between everything. And then in this one, it kind of swings the way opposite way of it's just about Leon, who, I'm gonna be honest, I don't particularly care for him. I know he's a fan favorite. He's super cool. He's a super cool guy. I mean, look at that hair. Who couldn't love that hair? But he's so over the top and ridiculous. I just didn't give a shit. So, yes, I'm sorry. I know people love this franchise a lot, but man, I did not care for these two films. I did rank Damnation above Degeneration, or whatever that means. So would I recommend these movies? If you're a really hardcore fan of the games, probably. I would imagine you would care a lot more. But if you're just a fan of the live action movies, or you haven't seen any Resident Evil movie or played any games, no, don't. It's gonna be really lost on you. And lastly is Resident Evil Vendetta. This is a 2018 film, and believe it or not, this is my second favorite Resident Evil film. It's legitimately good. It's so good. I'm really blown away by how good it is. It has a couple dumb things that I'll talk about later, but like, I can honestly forgive them because of all the really goodness that is this movie. First off, they did a great job of introducing us to our three main characters. We got Leon S. Kennedy. He's still ridiculous in this one, but I can look over that. We got Chris Redfield, who's just great, though he looks like he's trying to be one of the Gears of War's characters, which I find hilarious, but also endearing. And then Rebecca Chambers, who I really, really liked in this. I would almost call her like the pseudo lead of this film, and I really enjoyed that. She was really smart and interesting and just good vibes. I think the bad guy was doing really interesting things with the zombie virus. I think they played with that idea enough to make this feel really fresh and interesting. Like, yeah, it's still a zombie film, but the rules are different, and they're different in a logical and really interesting way. Also, the action in this film is top notch. Like, there's some really cool, basically gun porn scenes that are just like, man, I hate guns, but it's cool. That was really cool. And just, yeah, no, it really, really works. Like I said, there are a couple dumb things, with the two being two action set pieces. One is this motorcycle highway chase scene with some dogs. Here's a little clip of it. Yeah, no, it's just way too cool guy anime for my taste, but I could look past it because like it was short and all the other action was great. The other action scene that was just like, what the hell is this? Was the rooftop fight scene at the end of the movie. Again, I'll show a clip. It's spoilers, but it doesn't really matter because it's so absurd you have to see it. Yeah. By this point in the movie, they had me, so I'm just like, okay, I can't put this in the really liked because that was just so dumb, but, you know, the rest of the movie was great, so it's still getting high marks from me, despite that travesty. So, even with my couple complaints, I would totally recommend this movie. Like, even if you've never watched any Resident Evil movie or played any Resident Evil game, anyone could really get into this. Yeah, no, it's really good. Definitely recommend it. I've already warned you about the 2 bad scenes, so you're all good. The rest of it's pretty damn solid, so you're in for a good time. Hey, today I'm talking about Resident Evil Death Island. This is the 4th feature-length animated Resident Evil film and the 11th overall. The basic premise is there is this new version of the T-virus that's really unique and interesting. So our heroes Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, Claire Redfield, Rebecca Chambers, and everyone's favorite Leon S. Kennedy have to team up to go take on this new threat. But it's actually kind of an old threat too. So I've been making my way through the Resident Evil franchise, all of the movies and such, and I would say as a whole I do like them. They are pretty solid. And this film is no exception. It's pretty decent. The animation looks great. The action is pretty solid. The bad guy is interesting. They tied it into the original Outbreak, and I thought they did it in a very organic way. I also like the motivations for the bad guy and what he was going after. I could very much so sympathize with him. It's always nice to see Claire. It is fun to see all of these characters together for the first time ever. I enjoyed it. I just wasn't super captivated by it. I did find it interesting, but I don't know, there are just so many characters. When you have 5 essentially main characters, it's basically like the Avengers. And so it's tricky to make a story in which I'm caring about what's happening to all 5 of these different people. And I don't think they quite nailed that element. It is still a fun, entertaining experience, and I would say if you're a fan of the games, definitely give it a watch. You're gonna have a lot of fun with it. Or if you're a big fan of zombie movies in general, I think they have some really interesting ideas in this one that are worth checking out. But if you're not that into zombies or horror in general, or even Resident Evil in general, it's skippable. It's definitely not the worst Resident Evil film by far. It's fine, it's good. It just felt not quite there for me. Next up is Resident Evil. Welcome to Racoon City. This is the newest live-action Resident Evil film. It is completely unconnected to the other live-action films and is basically just a remake of the first 2 games combined into one film. So the basic premise is the premise of the first 2 games. And it's pretty dang solid. Like, they came in this from a place of love. I watched this on Blu-ray and I looked at some of the bonus features, and they used cinematics from the games to storyboard. They had a bunch of shot-by-shot comparisons. They put in a lot of effort to make it look like the game, and I think they did a great job there. I think they really nailed the characters. This is the first time that I like Leon in a film, which is great. Claire's always great to see, and I'm just always happy to see her. I really like the entire cast. I've actually seen all of the main cast and things, which I was so surprised by. Like, I've seen Leon in a short film I watched last year, which that kind of blew my mind. And I like all the actors too. This is also one of the first times I really like Jill. I think Jill works really well here, played by Hannah something last name. She was Ghost in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I really liked her performance there, and I think she also does a good job here of being a hard ass. The action was solid, the effects were good. They even, like, to go back to the game accuracy, they even got the blueprints for the police station from Capcom. So like the layout of the police station and the layout of the mansion, I believe too, are legitimately accurate to the game. I really loved that they finally like went back into the horror element, because even the CGI ones are more action-y. I mean, they do kind of have some horror stuff, but it's not really scary horror, it's just kind of stuff. It's nothing that ever got me. But this one got me. This one had really good spooky, scary, fun times. So yeah, it's honestly a pretty good film. It's not perfect, it wasn't a really liked, but it's definitely worth a watch. I would probably extra recommend it if you like the video games, because I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised, especially by how accurate as compared to the Milla Jovovich ones, which are not even remotely accurate. But even if you're not familiar with the games at all, I think it's still worth a watch. I don't understand why it got such a terrible critic rating. It's a good film. So yes, good shit, worth a watch. And now for my rankings. I'll go from last to best. So my least favorite in the didn't liked was the first animated one. Above that is the second animated film, also in the didn't liked. Then in the liked category is the fifth live action film, followed by the second live action film, and then we got the fourth animated film, again in the liked category. And then to round out the liked category is the fourth live action. And then jumping into the quite like section is the third live action. And then we got the sixth live action. That one's so fun. And then the Resident Evil remake is in the third spot. And then in the second spot is, surprisingly enough, the third animated film. That movie was just delightful. And then no surprise, my favorite Resident Evil film is the first Milla Jovovich one. It's so freaking good. So yes, it's great. I love this a lot. If I were to recommend like a viewing order, I would say watch all of 1, because 1 is great, there's no denying that. Skip over 2 and watch 3. She'll suddenly have superpowers, but like, she just suddenly has superpowers anyway, so it's whatever. Then watch the first 10 minutes of 4, right up and through, so you'll see like the big action set piece that was teased at the end of 3. You'll end with her on the plane with the bad guy, and she loses her superpowers, and so you see the explanation for how she loses her superpowers. You don't need to watch the rest. Even though Claire's in it and Claire's great, she's not worth it, don't bother. And then skip over 5, and then watch 6. So yes, 1, 3, 10 minutes of 4, and 6. And then at your leisure, watch the third animated one and the remake, because it's great. I really enjoyed this. I know some of these opinions are going to be a bit controversial. My brother strongly disagrees with how I ranked all of these. They're his movies that I borrowed. If you're curious how my brother Justin would rank the Milla Jovovich ones, 5, 2, 1, 3, 4, 6. So his favorite ones are actually my least favorite ones, which I would find so interesting. He didn't watch all of the other ones like I did. He didn't divide them up into categories, but he had positive feelings for all of them. Though, not so much 6. He wasn't super into 6. But the other ones, yes, he enjoyed a lot. Sorry I didn't talk about the video games more. But again, I don't feel like I'm an expert enough of the video games to really give my opinion there. But maybe I'll get more into the series and then revisit these movies in time. So yeah, who knows?